Is a graphical summary of the age distribution in my department. And this is where I am when I first became the department's manager. Greetings everyone, and welcome to another video here at Winscope. Today's video, I'd like to share a story from my experience during the time when I first became one of the youngest manager in my company. And it really challenged my personal growth. And the story about the challenges that I faced, as well as the things that I've learned, I believe will be useful to those people who are perhaps on a similar journey of going into uncharted territories full of self-doubts and insecurities. But it's in these difficult moments that actually yield the best lessons and growth. So without further ado, let's get into it. To give you some background, I'm currently working at a German company who specializes in manufacturing various chemical products. And I actually had a good start with the company. Right after I graduated, the company was offering a management trainee program, which I applied, went through several interviews, workshop, and was successfully hired. Even though the program offered somewhat of a fast track in my career, it wasn't easy establishing my own place within the company. I had to work really hard and wait for the right opportunity. And after 4 years of several successful projects, as well as 2 promotions, I was finally given the trust to assume the role of a manager, taking over the engineering department. Throughout the 4 years before becoming a manager, I've actually worked a lot with people, but I've never really had to manage a lot of people who are reporting to me before, let alone people who are older than me. But I knew that I like to develop people, I like to create culture, and ultimately make more of an impact. I was eager to have my own team to manage. Even though I imagined myself as a manager for a long time, once I became one, it was actually quite a shock. I didn't know what to do. I was so used to just doing things on my own for a very long time, and then suddenly having 10 plus people to manage about work that I don't know everything about yet was scary. Furthermore, more than half the people that I manage have like 10 to 20 years of work experience on top of me. One of my direct reports, formerly the head of the department, I'm going to call Mr. A for short, has been with the company for more than 30 years and is actually about the same age as my dad. The confidence that I had when I first asked for the job was quickly replaced with insecurities. Fortunately, despite my inner struggle, everyone, especially Mr. A, have been very professional. They've either seen my work before or they have worked with me before, so they were patient enough to let me take my time through the learning curve, and were all very respectful, despite me not being that much older than their sons or nephews. But that didn't automatically make things easy. You see, engineering department is involved in a lot within the company, from routine maintenance and repair to big engineering projects, each with its own massive detail. Initially, like any new managers, it was impossible for me to keep up. Consequently, people bypass me and just go straight to Mr. A when discussing work. And it was understandable because he's very proactive and he's actually much more senior than I am. So he looked more like the person who's actually running the department. So in the first few months of becoming a manager, people looked past me. I was often left out, sometimes forgotten, and it sucks. So one of the very first things that I've learned as a young manager is to confront your negative emotion and still do your job. The very first thing that I had to do was to accept that in order to do my job, I would have to confront all my negative emotions. Because having the title manager doesn't automatically make me a manager. I was going to have to get out of my own way and actually become one. This is my first tip to all young managers out there. Don't let negative emotions become excuses. Once you start feeling unconfident, once you start feeling insecure, it's very easy to give yourself 1,000 reasons why you should stay in the shadow and let other people do your job. I'm here to tell you from experience that your shortcomings and insecurities will be part of your job for a very long while. And the quickest way out of this uncomfortable phase is to actually deal with it and still do your job. Because if you don't, and your only strategy is to fake it till you make it, people will see right through your denial, they will see right through your pretense, and they will quickly lose respect for you. You would be standing in your own way of actually learning how to become better at it. So after being miserable with my situation for a while, I decided that if people leave me out of meetings, I would show up anyway, or simply ask to be invited, because it's my job to be there. If I'm lost in meetings, I would ask them to re-explain, because it's my job to know. Even though I felt stupid, I felt embarrassed, it wasn't about me because I had a job to do. And like any other positions, it takes time for me to settle into my new role and for other people to get used to it. But it all started with me deciding to do my duties and address my own negative feelings about it. The experience has taught me to be honest and humble, which leads me to the second thing that I've learned. Be transparent and follow through with your words. Being young in experience, I was especially driven to prove myself. So I tend to make decisions too quickly without getting the proper buy-ins from my teammates because I was really all about getting results. Unknowingly, I was putting myself instead of the team at the center of things. So my second tip to all young managers is to slow down and be transparent. Instead of solely focusing on end results, I included my team members in my journey through proper and consistent communication and following through with those communication. So after team meetings on KPIs, projects, and strategies, I made sure to follow up with discussing the background and logic behind them, painting a clear and common picture of our goals. And if I get something wrong or if there are certain details that I miss, the team can quickly point them out and then participate in an open discussion. Keeping the team involved kept me humble and respectful, which is especially important when I'm in a room full of more experienced people. Even more important is making sure that whatever was brought up during the discussion is followed up with real actions. If you commit to something, do it. If you say something is important, show it. Making sure that your words and actions are consistent with each other will help your words to carry more weight, adding to your credibility and maturity. And you're also indirectly communicating with the team that you expect the same thing from them. This creates a mutual trust, and proper communication will afford you and your team some space, which brings me to the final point that I'd like to share. Give your team space. Believe it or not, your team doesn't need you to tell them what to do all the time. If it falls apart the minute that you're gone, then you're not being a very good manager. And it can be scary to acknowledge that your team doesn't need you to function, especially when you are less experienced than they are. Being a new manager in a new team, I was enticed to constantly probe for information and updates, trying to get myself involved. It was understandable, especially in the beginning. However, the slippery slope that I found myself in was letting it become a routine because I was entitled to feel in control. I was micromanaging and it was annoying and ineffective. Once I realized what I was doing, I had to deal with my emotion differently while still maintaining a healthy line of communication with my team. So alternatively, I set up checkpoints for me and my team to touch base with each other on a regular basis while still leaving some room for ad hoc discussion. And this was through regular short meetings, weekly and monthly report on need-to-know matters such as expenses, critical incidents, progress on ongoing projects, things that you need to know in order to take actions and keep the wheels turning. And by not smothering my team, I was giving them space, which is a gesture of trust and respect. And the amount of space that you give is really an art that you have to personally master because it really depends on the team and also your style of management. Those are my experience as a manager so far. After 2 years on the job, I am confident enough to say that I've finally settled into the role. And this is not to say that I'm doing a perfect job because there are always new things for me to learn every day. In the end, most of it comes down to me addressing my own personal struggle while not letting it get in the way of being professional. Remember that making mistakes is part of the learning process, and it's okay for you to ask for help from your team. Be professional, be respectful, and over time, experience will help to groom you, and slowly your age will slowly fade into the background because it really doesn't matter. I hope sharing my experience today has been helpful for those who are on a similar journey. Are you a young manager at your company too? Are you facing similar challenges? Let me know your experience down below in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button and also press subscribe. Winscope out.